Welcome to the MIT IT Innovation Program podcast. This is a repository of insights by thought leaders and practitioners of innovation where they speak about their views, insights, and experiences. Come join us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, AI Strategies for Augmenting Innovation. I'm pleased to introduce our guest speaker and innovator, Mr. Dhanrajani, Chief Executive Officer and founder at AI Curate, Advisory and Consulting, a bespoke global AI advisory and consulting firm. Author of AI and Analytics, Accelerating Business Decisions. He has 20 plus years of industry experience. Samir was Chief Strategy Officer at Fractal Analytics, Global Business Leader at Cognizant Analytics and Data Sciences Business Unit at Cognizant Technology Solutions. He was also the country head at Fidelity National Financial, and prior to that, he was Vice President Analytics at Genpact. He's been 4 times TEDx speaker, a keynote expert, moderator, and speaker. Writes regularly for Forbes, Your Story Media, Business World, and is a prolific blogger with trend-setting topical coverage on AI strategy and consulting spectrum. He is frequently quoted across business media and news publications and is recipient of multiple awards and recognitions. Samir is an MBA from IIM Bangalore and pursued Strategic Management Program from London Business School and Digital Innovation and Design Program from MIT. Samir is a globally recognized AI advisor, business builder, evangelist, and thought leader known for his deep knowledge, strategic consulting approaches in AI space. He has consulted with several Fortune 500 global enterprises, Indian corporations, GCCs, startups, SMBs, VC PE firms, academic institutions in driving AI-led strategic transformation and innovation strategies. He has a rich and proven experience of building and scaling AI businesses and practices, securing large AI engagements and deals, and creating significant client impact. An AI advisor on AI policy matters with state governments and is instrumental in leading the effort for positioning India as a premier destination in AI. So before we proceed to listen to Samir, I have a few updates to share about the session and the MIT ID Innovation Program webinar platform. For those who are joining us for the first time today, I'd like to inform you that MIT stands for the 4-decade-old Maharashtra Institute of Technology. ID stands for MIT's 15-year-old Pioneering Institute of Design. MIT ID's one-year innovation program focuses on the 4 pillars of design, business, technology, and humanities. The key features and differentiators of this one-year course are immersions, project-based learning, and humanities. On behalf of Professor Harshit Desai, head of the innovation program and the core team, we are grateful to be amongst you all hosting the session today. Today's webinar will have our guest speaker share his insights for the first half hour, followed by questions facilitated by me in the latter half hour. Please do read the chat for other pointers shared earlier. This is our 19th industry interaction this season, and I, Priya Dhawan, Head of Collaborations, Branding and Outreach for the MIT ID Innovation Program, welcome you all once again to this thoughtfully curated innovation journey. We welcome you once again, dear Samir. Over to you, and may I also request you to pronounce the name of the company if I have mentioned that correctly earlier. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Priya, for the detailed introduction. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible. And it's a pleasure having you here.
Likewise, in fact, and you are in that 1 percentile who have spelled the name of the company rightly. And
wow.
So I think, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me over, and thanks MIT ID for giving me an opportunity to really talk about something which is actually I'm quite passionate about. And when AI blends with innovation, I think for the lack of a better word, I would say the magic happens. And my whole purpose for the next 30, 35 odd minutes would be to take out some generic stuff, but purely punctuate more with the industry example, because many of the industry examples, what I would showcase as part of this narrative, either they are in the public domain or something I have done with my teams in the past assignments what I've worked. Let me start straight away and kind of build the illustrations in terms of the main theme alongside. I think the first thing I want to start, which is often a misconception and a very large misconception, that artificial intelligence is complex, it's expensive, and not for the masses. And I have often heard in various forums that, look, we can't implement it, seems to be very esoteric or very kind of a tough to kind of understand. Here is an example I want to give, which is in a public domain, a real example and very impactful one. The story is about Makato. Makato is a young looking gentleman who's at the back of this picture, the one who's wearing specs. Makato finished his engineering, and he's born and bred up in Japan. And when he finished his engineering, he went back to his parents, and he wanted to meet, he wanted to catch up, he wanted to spend some time. And that's where this entire picture of Makato and his parents was shot. Now, Makato parents over the years have been doing farming in Japan, and farming in Japan is still considered to be a very revered, sought after profession. And they grow cucumbers. And cucumber farming, specifically in Japan, is again very, very kind of a sought after crop, and it's auctioned every week in Japanese markets. Now, during one of the conversations, Makato's mother said to Makato that, look, our income over the years have been reducing. It's been dwindling, and we don't know what's really going on. And that set Makato thinking. He has studied a bit of artificial intelligence in his engineering days. He said, maybe this is the time to best put that entire aspect to this use case, which is more of innovation led, that how does he correlate the price of the auctions of the variety which is happening in the market and what his parents are growing. By the way, cucumber farming has about 8 varieties sorted on texture, color, shape, and length kind of a thing. And Makato went back to his home. He clicked, then he came back, he clicked about 5,000 odd pictures on his iPhone of the cucumbers at the farm, various dimensions, various kind of a shape and colors kind of a thing. He went back to his home, downloaded a Raspberry Pi 3 processor worth about $35 from Amazon. And he also downloaded a Google TensorFlow, an open source tool free of cost. And he started kind of labeling and annotating the pictures of the cucumbers from his farm, along with the price kind of a thing, what it was getting fetched in the auction market. Few attempts to build an algorithm, he got about 30, 40, 50% kind of an accuracy. He said it's not enough. He tried multiple times, and then he reached out to a stage where he realized the model algorithm is giving him about 80% accuracy. And he went back to his parents and told them what kind of a crop or the variety of cucumber they should be growing. 18 months down the line, his parents' income went up by 400%. The cost associated was just $35. So this is the magic where we are talking about how AI in different strata, segments of industry, society, humanity works wonder when done rightly. I think blending AI with innovation is something which is, to me, very strategic, as well as very, very, I would say, interesting aspect. The reason I call it strategic, look at today how industries over the last few years have morphed into digital asset-light new age companies. We all understand S&P index of a company staying relevant in the entire list is just down to about 12 to 15 years. So organizations have no option but to kind of innovate. And if that's not enough, this COVID, which I treat as a black swan event, will actually further become a catalyst in terms of compelling organization to innovate on the fly. Now, there are 3 strategic imperatives when it comes to innovation. The main pillar of, or the foundation of innovation we are talking about in the organizations today is about how do we reimagine the customer experience. We all understand today customers want personalized, curated, absolutely kind of a, let's say, segmented product and services for them. We all understand today how we shop, transact, and behave when we start doing something online. And this will further get more accentuated when after COVID, organizations will realize they have no option but to go digital, but to go kind of a, let's say, online, which also means they have no option but to innovate product and services on the go. Cycle time for R&D, cycle time for innovation in terms of crunching new product and services have been truncated. And there is a reason why it's been truncated. I'll explain that in the subsequent slides. The last is transformation of the business, which is nothing but deconstruction of the business value chains of each and every industry. Few years back, I'm sure we've all realized when we used to apply for a credit card, let's say an ICICI Bank credit card, from the time you used to pick up the phone to call a customer service associate to the time you used to receive the card, if everything goes well, it used to take 16 steps on ICICI's side and 28 days turnaround time. Today, the entire process is down to just 3 steps. It's fully automated, fully AI driven, and the turnaround time, if everything goes well, is just 5 days. And there are multiple instances, kind of a thing, which talks about how the value chain of the businesses have been re-innovated, reimagined, and that's where AI is fueling the entire aspect of innovation over there. Now, as we realize, it's not about just kind of a data. Every time I've seen in my previous experience, whether it's a company or a student or a kind of a, let's say, organization which is getting into this journey, the talk starts and ends with data. Oh, we don't get data sets. We don't get right data. It will never be a situation where the data is clean. But at the same time, while there are experts who do their jobs in terms of building more data-centric platform, realize out here, it's not the magic of the data, it's the magic of the algorithms which do the trick. An example in analytics AI kind of a segment, what we always give, unless the algorithms, which is at the core of the problem solving mindset, unless the algorithms are not defining intelligence, insights, and recommendation for the end customers, there is no value to create such kind of sophisticated way to kind of enthrall or really kind of entice the customers, because that's a very short-term approach. Which also means is that eventually when there is a problem, the customer or the stakeholder is looking at some bit of insights, some bit of aid in decision making, and also recommendations and intelligence. And I'll explain how it's linked to innovation in terms of what's happening in the market and industry. Now, just a quick glance on some of these organizations. Everyone know that. For some of you, it's digital, asset light, new age organization. For me, these are math houses. Now, the reason over there, they are called math houses because if you look at Facebook today or Amazon or Airbnb or Netflix, the fundamental foundation of these organizations are nothing but a bunch or a set of algorithms which are patented specific to these organizations and doing the trick. We all realize today how Netflix recommendation engine has become a kind of a preferred mode of revolutionizing the entire OTT media entertainment segment, and so on and so forth. For if you see the Uber or the Google, which is the largest search engine platform as we know that. Now over there, if we take a sneak peek into the future, 5 years from now, and this is my theory which I've been kind of propagating for some time, which will become a reality at some stage because there are some green shoots which are happening. Now think of this, just like we have stock exchanges to trade in scripts, we have power exchanges, we have textile, we have oil exchanges where you can buy and sell kind of different commodities. At some level, we are also talking about an emergence of algorithm economy where they could be a virtual algorithm exchange. Let me explain what it means. Now, the way the proliferation of AI algorithms is happening in the market and industry. Now, think of this. Companies today have different, multiple, various facets of problems: supply chain, marketing, sales, customer acquisitions, R&D, quality, finance, solvency. These are multiple problems by multiple corporate professionals, what they, you and me face on day-to-day basis. When we are unable to kind of solve these problems, we rely on external side of this, I would say, world. We go to consultants, we go to service providers, we go to kind of different organizations. Now think of this. You have a problem where your customer base, hypothetically, is churning. You're losing customers by dozens. You don't know what needs to be done. You've given discounts, you had your digital strategy, nothing works out. Now you go to this virtual algorithm exchange. There are segments of problems over there which are segmented by customer acquisition, customer life cycle, customer mitigation. You look at that particular problem, you look at the industry you are into. Let's say you're into insurance industry. You get an algorithm, you do a POC, you run the kind of a test, you run some hypotheses or use cases on the go. You like the algorithm, you buy it out. You try and implement within your organization, and it goes through a kind of a, let's say, successful kind of a run. You buy more versions or enhancements of functionalities of those. That's the kind of a scenario we're talking about, a virtual exchange in some years to come. Millions of algorithms kind of solving millions of kind of, let's say, problems. And that's where the whole aspect of what we say democratization of AI will start happening. And I anticipate 5 years, but it could even be sooner than maybe 3 years from now. Now, while algorithm economy is good, at some stage we are also talking about how today algorithms have become so powerful. One, they're defining the business strategy of the organization. As part of my own organization, we do these strategy building using AI, using analytics for the organization. More importantly, it reached to a stage where algorithms today are sitting in the boardroom, crunching the decision-making process with the CXOs and telling them what needs to be done as part of the solvency or the part of growth or scalability of the company. There are a couple of organizations in US and Hong Kong which have made virtual algorithms sit in the boardrooms during the board meetings and taking decisions on behalf of the board or along with the board. While that happens, I mean, just a cursory glance at this slide can give you a view about these three industries. I've got 3 more coming. Just look at and just read through these kind of terms within these industries. They're absolutely revolutionized. They have been reimagined, and these have become a norm of the day. Banking, insurance, retail have been severely impacted by what I call the tech war: fintech, insurtech, and retail tech. I mean, today we are talking about branchless banking. I mean, it's absolutely, how many of us had to go to kind of a branch during this COVID period to do the transaction? Everything was there online kind of a thing. Insurance, telematics is the in thing. Any kind of calamity or a fatality or a kind of a hurricane, I mean, you can send the drones, image processing happens on the go. You assess using an algorithm, a damage assessment, maybe of a house, of a car on the go, and the person gets a claim in less than 30 minutes. That's the kind of innovation we are talking about. Retail, omni-channel presence, or something like having this customer experience on the go where your body dimensions, being a regular or a frequent customer, gets kind of you into a kind of a new collections which you can just try on the go. And if that's not enough, we're talking about the media and entertainment, which has really gone through a big change. We all realize today how OTT saved us a lot in terms of our own personal time getting consumed in watching some of the best of the series on Netflix or kind of a YouTube or even on Amazon Prime. Healthcare, of course, continues to be kind of majorly getting into an innovative segment with wearables and personalized medicine coming in. One of the drug manufacturers, Otsuka, which is in Japan, Otsuka has already filed a patented drug and which is approved by FDA, which is the first digital drug, which means if we have a fever, and of course, fever has some negative connotation today because a lot of people think that, okay, we are leading into some other kind of a challenge of COVID. But if someone has a fever, why we always have to take paracetamol? And why paracetamol has to behave in a generic manner for each one of us. So that's the kind of formulation we're talking about, where identifying our personal history and patterns or symptoms, a personalized or digital drugs will be coming into the market. And of course, shop floors, because of Industry 4.0, have been completely become factory of the future. Now, there is a theory around this. The reason I showed you all these things, why it's happening. Now, first of all, the theory is, which I make it a bit provocative, human beings are predictably irrational. Human beings are predictably irrational. And I'm not saying that. One of the gentlemen called Dhanrajani, he wrote a book called Predictably Irrational. And what he said that, which is interesting and bases that everything today, how the innovation world is changing and how AI is kind of leading that innovation is something interesting. Now, the prognosis of this theory is as human being, we take close to about on an average 60 odd decisions on a given day. Strategic, tactical, operational. What is that my plan after this particular session? What is that I'm going to do this weekend? What's my plan in terms of my career, my relationship kind of a plan or decision? Now, many of these decisions we are taking on a daily basis. And majority of them either are through our gut and intuition, oh, because I did this last time, let me try this thing. Or they are influenced by our peer, colleague, friends, and spouses. And we have seen that how our spouses, friends, and colleagues influence our decision making. Think of this. The way we are consuming information, transactions, work kind of a place, deliverables, everything is backed up by algorithms, which means our decision making will be highly influenced by algorithms. Let me give you an example. Many times when we are doing shopping on Amazon or let's say Flipkart, you're buying sneakers. I mean, you are happy that you wanted sneakers, there you go. Immediately, there is an adjacent category of loafers, which comes in. Of course, if you are a guy, you'll prefer loafers, not for the girls or the women. Now, loafers offer you 30% discount. You buy it because you felt, okay, it's a good deal. You get it kind of a thing. Suddenly, then you realize that, look, what prompted them to know that you actually were looking for sneakers, but you got 30% off? Somewhere, your entire browsing history, your purchasing pattern is linked, information gets shared, and the decision making gets influenced. Now, some of us can say, oh, there is a privacy, there is a regulation, but look, I always keep on saying, for every technology, for every facet of revolution which has happened in the world throughout the history of mankind, it's revolutionized everything. But one thing is that there is always a flip side to everything. And so is the flip side of AI also, because we understand there are sometimes those biases in the algorithms. We've seen sometimes the hiring in Amazon went wrong because of the biasness in the algorithm. There could be some kind of a manual malpractices which gets so that the algorithm kind of behave differently. But those are all influenced or triggered by humans. So we have to realize algorithms don't do the trick on their own kind of a thing. And that's where it's important for any professional to realize that it's linked to how algorithms work for the benefit of the organizations and enterprises. Now, the other facet which is usually asked, that why we are so bullish about AI, because it's not that innovation happens on the go or you can make a product, but the fact over there is that if we take data and do some analysis from different analysts or consulting firm, the fact over there which is coming out as a part of the inference is AI performance is outperforming human performance, period. I'll give two examples. One, everyone knows when Alexa was launched anywhere in the world, India or elsewhere, it gave phenomenal error rates. Today, because of the entire machine learning led algorithms, it's learning on the go, the whole aspect of the speech recognition is reduced to just 1 or 2%. And Alexa, by the way, is getting launched in 15 different languages within India. The other example, which talks about how AI performance has gone multiple notches up, is about AlphaGo Zero. Now, this is a chess machine designed by Google DeepMind. The fact over there in terms of two differentials stands out. Our own grandmaster, Vishwanath Anand, when he plays a game of chess, and it's brilliant and awesome in terms of the game everyone knows, he can think 250 times in terms of a possible move, in terms of permutation and combination, before his next opponent thinks through. 250. This machine, AlphaGo Zero, can think 370 million times before the next opponents can think what he or she needs to do. That's the computing power, that's the kind of data processing which has gone in terms of making this machine what it is today. And that's where we are saying, because AI has already been there, but because of this entire crunching power, the whole computing power going up, the mathematical capability going few notches up, it's now becoming more real in terms of how image, voice, text, and video is doing magic for everything. Now, when we talk about some of the quick skim through I'll do, there is a correlation. There is a market data today where there is a direct impact that today organizations are gaining on top line, bottom line, and even operational efficiency increase using artificial intelligence. Second, one aspect in this slide is very, very kind of thought provoking. If you see on the right side of the slide, $1.2 trillion worth of business will be stolen from competitors by companies using AI in 2021. And outside of Forrester, every analyst firm has come out with that number and it's almost matching what Forrester had to say. That's the kind of, let's say, challenge what the organizations may have if they are not embracing AI at the right time. Now, the fact over there, if we look, coming back now to the real side of the industry examples, different segments. Now, how today innovation is happening on various platforms, various kind of mode by using AI. Now, how these are two interlinked, let me explain with the way these examples have been set up. Now, on the left side, this particular gentleman, everyone knows, but this is not about, the example is not about Mark Zuckerberg or Facebook. The fact over there is that every listed company goes through a financial earnings call every 3 months. We know that today. Just recently, Reliance thing happened. This time remotely, everyone knows, kind of a thing. Now, fact of the matter is that every CEO tries to put a very positive kind of a commentary or a financial projections, even though it's not going in the right way. At least in my own experience, I've never heard a CEO or seen a CEO talking downside about a company. Now, the fact over there is that there is a lot of money at stake, which is also about PVC funds, shareholders, financial institutions, and they can't just go by the commentary of the CEO. Now, how this innovation happened, in one of the erstwhile financial earnings call of Infosys, where Dr. Vishal Sikka, who's the CEO at that point of time, some of the analyst firms and PE hedge funds said enough is enough. Let's start using different mechanism to innovate and see how does the earning call looks like if we use AI. So as Dr. Sikka entered the whole boardroom, and this meeting was done in Mysore campus of Infosys, as he entered, from the time he was kind of looking at anyone and to the time what he was saying on the stage or the podium, everything was monitored by AI, which means every facial expression, every aspect of his voice was being evaluated. So any kind of a lump in the throat, any kind of a voice modulation could be a sign, even if he's very bullish about the numbers, that look, maybe it's not working out well. Now, the second thing could be using facial expression, computer vision techniques. You can find if there are crow's feet towards the eyes, and if there is a positive commentary, ideally it should not happen. So the correlation gives a signal back to the decision maker that, look, maybe the emotions or the tones of the voice are being faked out. Now, the fact over there is that this is not conclusive. You will say, yeah. And the reason it's not conclusive because CEOs are smart. They're well tutored, they're well rehearsed. Every one of them can fake emotions and voice. But here is the correlation, how the innovation happened. So when a CEO gives a commentary standing on the stage podium, facing the audience or the shareholders or the stakeholders, and if he or she is very positive, very bullish about the numbers, but at the same time, at the back, as you know, in every earning call, there are CXOs. But at the same time, when the CEO is positive, the CFO is the back, is maintaining a straight poker-faced expression, there could be something wrong. And these things happen on the go, video live feeds, real-time AI algorithms running on the crunch. And that's where the innovation aspect gets kind of germinated, where you say, look, how do you look at what I mentioned on the side beyond the obvious data sources? Similarly, on the right side, quickly jumping on this, this is a satellite image of a US retail giant. Now, the first thing you'll say, not a big deal. Every company today is trying to measure the footfalls. This company is going a step further. By looking at the parking lots of each and every 2,000 retail stores, what they have in US, they are also looking at other data points. The time the cars are parked in the parking lot, the make of the car, the model of the car, the time the car have kind of spent in that parking lot, and then trying to come out with the new correlation of what could be the earnings of this US retail giant from 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now. That's a correlation index which provides that kind of a, let's say, linearity in terms of using different innovative methods to find new kind of financial meanings using AI/ML. Now let's look at this video feed. Now, this is a case study of an innovation in marketing, one of the marketing areas. Now, the fact over there, as if some of you are a fan of US soccer, this is a Super Bowl match, finals over there. And one Super Bowl match has close to about $160 billion of advertisement spend. One TV commercial cost close to about $3.5 to $4 million. Now imagine if you're a marketeer, you are a brand manager or a head of that organization which has put in money. Your brand was not visible in your CEO's opinion. Your team also lost. So imagine what would have been the nature of your expression if you would have to face the CEO next day. Now, this marketing person was smart. She used what I say a simple marketing mix attribution technique. Now, look at the change, how you will see this particular video feed. Now, if you look at this entire aspect of the match was labeled and annotated, where this marketing head, she used an analytics firm, an AI firm, which labeled and annotated the entire video feed of the match. Today, the ad spends are not just about ads which are coming during the breaks. If you see the players of the the jerseys of the players, the turf of the stadium, the galleries of the players, everything had brand displayed. And that was coming on the right-hand side using simple, what we call the marketing mix attribution technique in terms of the frequency, interval, and the time it was getting elapsed as part of the overall brand kind of saliency and all. So this is what we talk about, how innovation in some of the areas provides different meaning if we start using artificial intelligence. Let me move quickly to some of these areas which are crucial today. Healthcare. I keep on saying this is one industry which will get really reimagined in a very innovative manner using artificial intelligence. Now, specifically in COVID, look at this. Today, God forbid if something happens, the whole COVID symptoms enters through the chest. There are possibly 15 elements or symptoms which can go wrong in the chest. So for the first thing the hospitals or the doctors are trying to do is to either make you go through an X-ray, CT scan, or MRI. And that is being analyzed by radiologists whose core job is to analyze MRI, CT scan, or X-rays. A radiologist on an average takes about 15 minutes to understand what's the possible of one of the 15 elements, what can go wrong in the chest or multiple. Because of oversight, negligence, exertion, they can go wrong. Here, deep learning algorithms, millions of X-rays, CT scan, and MRIs using AI today are giving an accuracy rate of 99.8%. Now, the first thing you will think about, what's the job of a radiologist out here? Just hold your thoughts, I'll come to that. Now, this is an example which is close to my heart. Now, this is an example where how today innovation and AI works magic for the humanity. This is an example which is again in the public domain. This is about Saqib Sheikh, the person who's wearing glasses or glares in the right side of the picture. Now, Saqib is born and bred up in Pakistan. He's visually impaired from the birth. He cannot see, he's blind. And 14 years back, he went to US and found a job in Microsoft. And during one of the first 3 months of his conversation at the coffee table with his colleagues said, Saqib, let's make your life magical. And he just said, guys, there's nothing magical for me. I cannot see. I'm visually impaired. So let's not joke around. They said, okay, hang on. After 3 months, they gave Saqib a pair of glasses. Now, these are not the ordinary pair of glasses. As Saqib steps out to meet his friends, neighbors, go to office, he wears these glasses. The glasses have an innate ability to click pictures on the go. And now, as you can see, Saqib is pressing through his left index finger the stem of the glasses. Now, pictures have no meaning for the Saqib, of course, because he cannot see. But here, the pictures on a real-time basis, as he's clicking, are getting translated into voice, and he's wearing the AirPods, what of course you can't see out here. And this is what he's able to hear, that Saqib, maybe 10 to 15 meters ahead of you, there is a 15-year probably old kid on a skateboard wearing a navy blue jersey, beige trouser, black sneakers. Would you like to meet him? Now imagine the life of Saqib getting absolutely magical through this innovation of image, voice, and text and video coming together. Now another example which I will dwell in terms of the correlation of radiologist. Now, as we all understand today, when we visit a chemist store, or a druggist or pharmacy store as they call it in US, with all due regards, many of the times we can't make out what the doctor prescription is. The handwriting seems to be very, very illegible. What happens over there, even in India as well as in US, if the pharmacist gives you wrong medicine, fatalities happen. 7,000 deaths happen in US every year because of wrong prescription of medicine and drugs. $14 billion of lawsuits were getting filed. This pharmacy chemist chain in US said enough is enough. They deployed a robotic arm which had AI built in. So this is how it functioned, and this is a kind of a test case which we did with one of the teams in my previous organization. And this is deployed in Union Square, California. As you visit the store, you're greeted by this robotic arm. You give the prescription. She scans the prescription. She goes to the aisle of the store, links all the previous symptoms of that particular patient, because in US, all the patient data records are linked, picks up the medicine, comes to the front end of the store, gives you the medicine in flat 45 seconds. You can make a payment by a contactless credit card, walk out the store in 1.5 minutes. Accuracy rate, 99.9%. Now, in this case, you will also say, what the hell the pharmacist or the chemist has to do out here? Well, the fact over there, whether it's a radiologist in the earlier case or a pharmacist out here, their job is not to give medicine. Radiologist's job is not to just analyze X-ray or CT scan. Their main job is to counsel the well-being of the patients. Somewhere that is getting lost because of the drudgery or the menial task many of us are getting involved with. And this is what AI-led innovation will do. It will bring out the essence or the core essence of the jobs to make it much more meaningful. This is again an example. I'll make it quick because we have to manage the time also. Few months back, you would have read a case study, or rather this particular news, that in Japan, bullet trains which run at a speed of 250, 300 kilometers per hour, one of the coach of that bullet train had the door getting opened within when the train was at the optimal speed for 4 minutes. Luckily, nothing happened. But in the post analysis of that particular coach of that bullet train, it was found one of the sensor of the train of that particular door wasn't working. And this is where how sensors transmit data to the kind of manufacturers, OEM suppliers, or the contractors. That's where the wear and tear, basis the wear and tear of the parts or inventory, they are able to take a decision to replace that part before it malfunctions. And this is what happens in every possible high-tech instrument or high-tech kind of I would say, industry today. Couple of examples coming to our backyard, because I've taken many examples from the global perspective. Now, there is a correlation in terms of how innovation is happening in Swachh Bharat campaign using AI. Now, the first thing you will ask, Swachh Bharat campaign and AI, let me give you what's happening out here. Government has earmarked 12,000 crores worth of money to create washrooms, sanitization workplaces in the remotest part of India under the Swachh Bharat campaign. And almost 48% of them have been constructed. Still a far way to go. But if you have visited any washroom which is constructed under Swachh Bharat campaign, and if you're not happy with the, let's say, hygiene or quality, and maybe in one of the washroom in the remote district of Assam you visited, there is a broken tile and you are not happy. As you come outside, every washroom under Swachh Bharat campaign at the outside have a WhatsApp number. You take the picture. You don't have to mention any location, just WhatsApp that picture to that number. No name, no kind of a mention of any location, any district. That picture goes to the command center in Rajasthan, which is situated in the district of Barmer. Now, that particular command center has the pictures of every washroom across the India labeled and annotated. So within 15 to 20 seconds of they getting picture, this particular image of a broken tile, they are able to understand which location had this particular issue. Within next 30 seconds, automatically the call goes to that vendor who had constructed this washroom, asking him to fix the washroom. The entire transaction gets done in a minute, minute and a half. Only 4 people, 24/7, work in this contact center associate. So look at the innovation, what AI has done in terms of building a right use case in terms of not only improving the quality, but the overall aspects of this entire kind of a, let's say, framework. The thing over there, keeping it short, AI is also looking at how does the whole judicial system in India gets innovated. Now, when I say innovation, there is a big innovation which will happen over there. In India, currently, there are 3 crore 30 lakh cases, 33 million cases. 84% of them have an average pending tenure of 13 years, 13 years. If some of us have been into litigation, I'm also have one of the case which is going against one of the housing companies. We all realize that it's a very agonizing experience. Things don't happen. 74% of the lawyer's time gets spent in just finding the 524 Indian penal sections what we have and the subsection, 74% of the time. The same thing can be done by AI engine using text and machine learning so that the judges, lawyers can focus their time in terms of solving the case and not elongating. So there is something which is big time happening, and the government is considering various initiatives, and this will be a major breakthrough in judicial system for India. Coming over there, one of the facets over there of the innovation, when I talked about transforming business, innovating product and services, the fact over there, I can tell you with my own experiences, AI alone is not enough to solve the problem. And making it much more provocative, but this is how it is. I'll give an example. Oral-B toothbrushes, they enjoy a category kind of a presence in many of these oral hygiene products. One of the earlier part of their time, they were struggling to get their toothbrushes getting sold. They tried everything. What they did then, they fitted one of the brushes with a sensor. No big deal. Many of the instruments today, variables or everything comes with the sensors. But along with the sensors, they had an app which you can download on your mobile. Now, here is the interesting part. Now, an average brushing time today for anyone, whether it's a kid or an adult, is 2 minutes. Anything less than that is considered to be not an idle brushing time. Now, for some of us who are in this call who have kids, I have a 12-year-old daughter. I mean, whenever she has to go to the school and she does brushing, I can tell you it's a very agonizing and very kind of a difficult experience. And when she starts using this brush, the app, you can show her anything less than 2 minutes, like in this case, it's 1 minute 23 seconds, while the emoji is different. But over there, the emoji turns red. There is a frowning noise. You show it to her. I can tell you, she will say, okay, I want to brush it again. After 2 minutes, when she does that, now there is a happy emoji. There is a jingle. She happily goes to the school. Now, we all realize today, our life is governed today. Many of us, our life is governed by emojis and emoticons. Well, what happened after some time, or will be realized this brush was getting sold to more adults. 2 minutes is a big brushing time. This ice cream manufacturer did everything: design thinking, innovation, any kind of a, let's say, AI technique. They used model making. The sale of this ice cream brand did not flourish, did not went up, did not see uptick until some of the analysts, some of the design thinkers, and some of the innovators gave this idea. Now, as you can relate, in our formative years, our kid years, I mean, kind of a thing, there used to be this ice cream kiosk, kind of a guy used to come and we used to say, okay, ice cream guy is here. In US, of course, if you play this jingle, people were drawn to this part of the store. 30% increase of sales of ice cream in one single quarter, just playing this jingle. Now, coming again to how this whole aspect of design, AI work and give you more innovative led use cases. Now, God forbid, if someone has to go through this exercise, it's agonizing. I mean, personally, it's very, very kind of, let's say, claustrophobic. Kids have 80% sedation rate. Someone really thought about not using just some of the techniques or frameworks, but by doing this. Now I'm sure some of us would also like to just try it for the fun sake of it. 10% is now the sedation rate among kids. So it's just a change how the whole outlook of innovating product and services, changing the whole experience for customers to try and make it much more in an adaptable manner. Let's look at this video clip. Now, as you can relate that for some of us who are used to jaywalking, I think next time when you think about this slide, you will realize that jaywalking should not be done. And a perfect example of how behavioral science was used in conjunction with data to create a very, or rather to solve a very innovative, but very often neglected case of jaywalking. And just the thing around, since I've overshot the time, there are 3 strategies in terms of coming to say that how do you innovate, or rather how do you augment innovation within your enterprise, startup, or a firm. I think today you could see that it's not just artificial intelligence alone which will solve the problems. It's a blend, or I call it trifecta of artificial intelligence, engineering, and design. Design example you saw, artificial examples you also kind of saw in the previous slide. Data engineering is one thing. I can just give an example how data engineering needs to be kind of given that emphasis. Few months back, if you know that the famous star of Friends serial, Jennifer Aniston, joined Instagram, and she was late in joining Instagram. Within 15 minutes of her joining Instagram, she had 7.5 million followers on Instagram. Instagram crashed. The next day, New York Times reported Instagram algorithms do not work. But the fact over there was that it was not algorithms, it was the data pipes or the data platforms which were not robust enough to kind of take that kind of a traffic or velocity of data. And that's why if you look at how do you build that innovation platform or ecosystem within the organization, it has to be a trifecta of AI, engineering, and design. And let me end by showing you this video clip, which to me is how the future of work will evolve, specifically post maybe the COVID period.
The Brussels Motor Show, the biggest car event in Belgium, where all car brands show off their newest technologies. But it was Volvo who hijacked all the attention with the first car that could recruit its own technicians. Volvo presents the recruiting car.
Ik ben de HR99. Ik ben op zoek naar onderhoudstechnici voor de Volvo fabriek in Gent.
200 job openings were announced on social media, inviting everyone to come and check out the first car that recruits its own engineers. To conduct the interviews, we tapped into the car's technology.
Welcome, Oliver. Glad to see you put on your blue shirt for the interview. Can you show me where my electric compressor is?
Sure. Yeah.
Please allow me to play some piano music to make you feel more comfortable. Tell me, why should I hire you?
I've been passionate about coding. By applying AI, we could actually test social and technical skills and make unbiased evaluations of all applicants. These were sent to Volvo's HR managers for further interviews. Changing the conversation from cars to jobs got us national media attention.
L'entretien d'embauche sera d'abord mené par un véhicule et par son intelligence artificielle.
70% of all news coverage about the Brussels Motor Show was dedicated to Volvo. More than 1 in 2 Belgians was reached through PR coverage alone, leading to 300% more price requests. And the 200 vacancies, well, they were all filled.
So that's the future of the work. That is how I think it will look like. Okay. Thank you so much. Priya, sorry I exceeded the time. Happy to
No
take
problems at all. No problems at all. I would request Zoom to actually quickly bring in the feature of a virtual applause. I think it was a superb presentation. And thank you so much, Sameer, for the case studies, the rich insights, and such a beautifully packed session, lots of data included. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to ask you that, with 2 decades spent in technology, which according to you was your turning point here? When you realize that technology is here to stay, and this is the field that you need to, build your expertise in.
Well, I'm a AI expert. Okay, let me just back up. Of my 23 years of work experience, 18 have been in AI analytics. I've seen all the genres from a Myers report to AI happening. And I'm an accidental AI expert. It was never a choice. But the fact over there, I think the biggest kind of, let's say, time what I saw in inflection time when I saw this was in 2012, where this acronym called SMAC came in, Social Mobile Analytics Cloud, which was under the whole wraparound under digital. Because over there, everything how these technologies, areas needs to be kind of, let's say, worked upon, changed, because clients, organizations started coming out with new problem statements. Earlier, it was just application maintenance, development, that's it. Keep the servers on, keep the lights on. Then they started saying, can you enhance our customer experience? Can you look at risk mitigation, fraud kind of, let's say, mitigation? Can you look at our operational efficiency increase? That's where many of these new age technologies started kind of working under the whole hood of innovation. And I think to me, this is good for professionals like all of us who are saying, look, forget about the technology. when you look at a problem case or a kind of a real use case, you're either looking to innovate or transform the experience or a framework for a client. And that's the kick about this particular usage of this technology.
True. Great. Thank you so much. I would also like to know, where do you see an intersection of behavior science, which is more of a human factor, and AI technology?
Well, that's a very good question, because I've been very rather a huge proponent of AI uh, design and behavioral science coming together. As you could see, in fact, in my all previous organization last 10 years, I've been propagating, and the simple fact come in if you see how Dr. Richard Thaler, who prophesized nudge theory, had a clear correlation that wherever rules and regulations don't work, subtle nudges work. And there is a thinking behind even design thinking, what we call, how do you design for the subconscious mind? That's where AI can actually work, or rather, design thinking, behavioral science, and AI can come together beautifully to create what I say mass adoption. You can make the best of the algorithms, but if you don't have a design kind of a output, or if you don't have a behavioral science aspect, it will just die down. And a case in point is, let's say, Apple, brilliantly kind of, let's say, manufactured kind of an instrument, if I call it an instrument that way, because the computing power is as equivalent to an Apollo 13 kind of a mission, but minimal in design because it's designed for the mass usage.
Sure. Thank you. You've also learned or have studied design innovation. I'm not too sure whether this question would be in any way related to your experience, but do try. Shubhangi would like to know, as a designer, she would like to ask how to implement AI in my design presentation to make people understand about my design idea before the process of coding. So if you'd like to answer that.
Sure. I think I'll make it brief, but also relevant from a point. I think design or AI are enablers. We got to understand the problem statement. And today, if we look at from the lens of the clients who have given you these problems, they're even open to say that, can you reframe this problem? And today, in my own understanding, when we are doing these AI projects, which has blend of design, behavioral science, 70% of the time, clients are ready to say, or rather ready to listen and say, look, maybe you have thought of a problem like this, but in our own kind of understanding, the problem should be attempted in that mode. If we cross that kind of a, let's say, segue or that particular point, I think then we can bring in all these facets of AI design and all. And the whole premise of a design is challenge the status quo. And I think that's something which has to go into addressing any kind of a problem. And this is exactly what is happening in terms of every industry. If you see, they're questioning now every process, every part of the value chain, and saying, let's innovate and build more kind of aspect of design, AI, and new age technologies into that.
Sure. Thank you. Dr. Sunil Lalchandani would like to know, can AI be a threat to society in terms of employment in coming period of time? Major question on everybody's minds.
Yeah, but so there are two ways of looking at this. It's not about yesays or naysayers. There was a recent study which was done by McKinsey along with World Economic Forum, where the whole analysis of all studying all the geographies and the working population came out that by 2023, close to about 1.8 million jobs will be lost or displaced because of AI automation, but close to about 2.2 million jobs will be created. So which means there is a net addition of almost 0.5 million almost jobs getting in the next 3 years. But the premise over there, many of these jobs will be in the new areas, new segments, and maybe new kind of, let's say, way how we work. Which means if we look at today how the whole workforce is being looked upon, everyone has to either reskill or upskill, because that's exactly every revolution in the past has taught us. And this revolution, whether it's AI or newest technology, will also compel us or the larger population to say, let's either kind of, let's say, reskill, upskill, and stay relevant. Otherwise, it will be difficult over there.
Sure. Thank you. Janvi would like to know what are some ways of acquiring some data points from a generic audience which is low, medium, tech savvy.
Say that again. I couldn't capture, Priya.
What are some ways of acquiring some data points from a generic audience which is low, medium, tech savvy?
Well, I think data points today, if we look at in terms of whether you're a tech savvy or not, has two crucial aspects. One is technology is a wraparound in terms of the business. Second, the tools and frameworks are enablers. Now, over there, I think there is a facet which has come out that, okay, we need to be L0 to L4 progressionally on every technology. That may not be required. So what is happening if we look at today how organizations are looking at technology professionals, they are rather preferring what I call a deep generalist than a siloed specialist of technology, which means that if a person has a blockchain understanding or a prowess around blockchain, can he or she also get into blockchain plus IoT? Because technologies will come in and go, but the question will remain if the person was able to kind of get on to the other side of learning new skills and new trade. And I think somewhere this whole aspect of clubbing new technologies or clubbing business and technologies are being measured on a time scale of, or rather this maturity scale of low, medium, and high.
Sure, thank you. Siddharth would like to know that experts say that AI can help create ideas and compose music. What makes AI capable of music composition and how can it allow creativity?
Well, I think it's simple. I think when I say music, in fact, I would have shown this particular video, but it's a 4-minute long. All the listeners can actually visit this video. It's on the YouTube. There was a painting by Rembrandt, which was a famous painting 374 years back, which got recently repainted using AI. They used 60 different permutation combination of looking at the canvas, the whole feel of that eye, that whole mustache, because it's a human painting, and then designing using AI ML techniques. Basis the data what they had. Now, even for music, if you look at compositions of the previous, let's say, genres, it's a simple kind of a, let's say, way of then cultivating that or wrangling that data to kind of create new tones kind of a thing. I'll give an example what is happening in media and entertainment industry, and I've been associated with one of the projects, and this is a soon to be a reality. We all know today Netflix allow us to kind of watch the genres of movie we are interested, but there is a new revolution which is happening. I'll give a simple example. Many of us has watched Sholay. It's a cult movie. Some of us didn't like Amitabh Bachchan, dying prematurely in the movie. Sanjeev Kumar not having his hands. But let these cliffhanger moments today, basis our viewing patterns, can be reshaped tomorrow using AI, where the end or the climax will be per our liking. So imagine how the shooting, how that kind of a music, how that kind of a, let's say, aspect of movie making or script writing will happen. And this is soon to be a reality because a lot of AI and movie and production people are working together on this.
Sure, thank you. Nina would like to know, do you see the creation of human androids in the near future via AI innovation?
Well, absolutely. If Sophia is a reality, so would be in some point of time kind of maybe our kind of, let's say, next gym instructors or our kind of, let's say, kind of a household help or our kind of, let's say, day-to-day kind of people whom we associate could be in a form of a humanoid or a cyborg. But here is the reality. Look, as we say, every revolution nudges or compels humanity to up the ante on the knowledge side, which is what AI or any such new technology is doing to us. It's compelling us to kind of move to the next level. And human beings have always questioned and always said, okay, let's make our life more meaningful by enhancing skills. And that's across is happening if you see. And this is what AI will push to what I say that human beings are meant to do more productive work. And this is exactly will happen where some of the menial tasks or the daily chores task will be taken by the cyborgs or the humanoid. There is already a vacuum cleaner, which is all human, or rather a kind of a, let's say, robot. But at the end of the day, then we are moving up the value chain and we're doing some more productive work. Of course, COVID lockdown apart. So that's where I think some of these things will happen, which will reshape how we actually work or kind of perform in the future.
Sure. Thank you. We'll take this last question for today. How can startups make use of AI for building their businesses?
Well, first of all, it's a good question, Priya, because startups honestly were a bit late in embracing AI. But what is happening today, if we look at the barrage of startups we have in fintech, health tech, or even manufacturing side of the domains, many of them are coming with AI first approach, which means if you look at a fintech just to give an example of fintech, I mean, this whole aspect of serving or giving or providing loans to the undeserved or kind of a unserved category is phenomenal, which means that they do not have the credit score, but you got to look at some other data sources. Now, it goes back to the point I showed, or the example I showed. Just by understanding their behavior across social media, if they're on LinkedIn, if they're on Twitter, if they're on Insta, or they're on Facebook, can actually give an impression whether that loan should be given or not. And this is an AI engine in the background working. And if you just look at some of these startups in healthcare, Cure.ai, Nerami.ai, just using deep learning algorithm, they're trying to pick up each and every part of the body and say, let's analyze using X-rays and MRIs with the crunch data that what can go wrong, which means they're taking out the whole equation, what a radiologist will have to do, which is on a task level. But the radiologist will move to a different level of prescribing and being more suggestive then.
Sure. Thank you. I think there's one more question that's rolled in, and I think we'll truly take this as the last one. Manthan would like to know, can AI be used to predict future possibilities of natural disasters using past data?
Well, in many of the cases, it's already doing actually. If some of us studied also, in October, there was a flash by one of the Australian AI company where aggregating the entire sentiment analysis across the Twitter, YouTube, or let's say Insta, that company earmarked pneumonia as one of the fearmost kind of equation in the time to come. Now, at that point of time, also we all need to realize Corona, COVID wasn't there, but the alarm bells were being kind of, let's say, there actually, and somewhere all these things started getting predicted. Well, the fact over there is also, I mean, if you look at the more sophisticated cases of catastrophic risk modeling, CAT modeling, as we say, and there are companies like RMS and others which are doing the same thing. They're just on a mission to predict hurricanes, any kind of a flood, any kind of a cyclone, purely on a preemptive basis. I mean, they study, I mean, they have put about 200 sensors across the New York shoreline. So any kind of a, let's say, a change in the temperatures or different parameters can give an indication to the citizens of New York what can go wrong along their shoreline. So many of these things have already been done. But again, as I say that the way we are also now getting questioned is for every new use case of AI, the nature is also coming out with a new case in terms of turbulence. And COVID is one of them.
True. Thank you. Thank you, Samir. For more questions, do reach out to us offline on LinkedIn. We'll conclude here. A round of thanks to our participants for joining us today, and special thanks to our guest speaker, Mr. Samir Dhanrajani, for his time and the value-add takeaways from his journey. We encourage you to connect with us via our social channels to know more about the MIT ID Innovation Program and upcoming webinars and online courses. I'd like to invite you all to our next webinar on Wednesday, 24th June 2020. Our guest speaker is Dr. Kaustubh Dhargalkar. He is the author. He is a design thinking, innovation and strategy consultant, trainer, coach, organizational design for innovation, who will be speaking about the logic, not magic, behind innovation. Please register in case you haven't yet. For those interested in enrolling for the one-year course, we have last few seats left for the second cohort of this prestigious program. that will fast track your career path. So log on to www.mitidinnovation.com to kickstart your innovation journey with a diverse set of co-innovators. Stay connected, stay safe, and keep innovating every day. Thank you once again, Samir. Take care.
Thanks, Priya. Thanks to all the participants. Thanks for inviting me over.